Stumbling slightly, Charlie snuck out of the gallery and walked across the street to the sand. He pulled off his shoes and stood there, his feet digging into the coarse grains, pulling in deep breaths of the nighttime breeze blowing in off the sea. He knew he should be proud. His first solo exhibition in Mexico. Important names sycophantically admiring his pieces. He had sold out in 20 minutes, and he shuddered to think about the money he had made. He knew he should be proud. But instead he felt nothing. Just a little drunk. He walked towards the water's edge, gazing out across the roiling black expanse of the ocean. The salinated air seemed to dance in and out of his nostrils, playing upon his skin, surrounding him, renewing him. He dipped a toe into the sea, the water cold, seductive, promising. He let his feet bathe in the tide, the water lapping up his ankles, before retreating, beckoning. He stepped forward and reeled as the water rushed forth, engulfing the lower half of his body, his pores screaming with shock, and perhaps delight. Seized by an impulse, a wild ambition, he plunged his entire body into the water, diving to the floor, the eerie stillness beneath the waves. He swam with broad, inspired strokes, gliding farther and farther, slipping from the shallows to a deeper, stiller part of the ocean. Gazing up, he could faintly make out the moon. The sea above looked calm, but it was not tranquil. The surface appeared poised, defensive, on guard. He turned his gaze to the depths beneath him and swam on down, forward, lower, farther. He began to encounter strange, nameless creatures. Small, iridescent fish that glassily stared at his humanness. A stingray gliding below him paused as if to laugh at his mammalian clumsiness, this tourist underwater. Paying it no heed, he swam on, the moonlight growing darker. In the far distance, he could make out a massive shape, a fish bigger than a city block. It was floating, turning itself ever so slowly upside down, then right side up, and he began to imitate it, buoyantly flipping his own body in the stillness, in the silence. He felt something brush against his leg, something on his arm, then his face, tendrils of something hardly more substantial than the water around him. He felt it again and again, thousands of tendrils caressing him, soothing him. He swam forward into the ropey, silky mass, a forest of seaweed that embraced him, encircled his waist, slid across his legs, entered his mouth. He swam farther, the kelp growing denser, until he felt a tug on his leg. He turned and found he was caught in the seaweed, his leg ensconced in a thicker, more steadfast rope. Moving to free himself, he found his arm was caught as well. Struggling now, he felt the seaweed tighten its grip, pulling him, its floral tentacles around his throat, his torso, his sex. He thrashed and it held on tighter. His eyes rolling in his head, he pushed and wildly clutched at it. And the kelp grew stronger, Finally, he stopped moving and the kelp stopped pulling. He renewed his struggle and the tendrils renewed theirs. Again he stopped and again the kelp went still. Slowly, lightly, he ran his fingers along the vines. They were pulsing, living, breathing just as heavily as him. He found as he stroked the tendrils that his hands could touch the entire underwater forest. He moved his forefinger forward for miles till he could no longer see it, stroking here, prodding there, smacking, scratching, caressing the seaweed at the other end of the ocean. The kelp gave a great sigh and writhed about him, writhed within him, fondled him. He stretched his leg and sank it into the seaweed miles away. He stretched his sex into the seaweed of the Atlantic, pressed his tongue deep into the grim flora of the Arctic. He swayed with the underwater plant life of Earth, pollinated it, photosynthesized with it, and then knew it was time to go. He retreated back across the ocean floor, back into his usual proportions. His forefinger coming last, languidly, reluctantly, retreating back to his hand, brushing the soft tendrils as it passed, promising to return. The seaweed released him and he swam back the way he'd come, toward shallower water, past the iridescent fish, past the stingray, till he broke the surface and lay gasping on the shore beneath the dawn sun.